Hello and welcome to another DEY Dialogue Discussions in Defense of Childhood. My name is Denisha Jones, and I'm so excited today to be joined with Deb Lawrence from the International Play Association USA chapter. Welcome, Deb.
Thanks, Denisha. Welcome, everyone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's a
Good.
beautiful
Busy,
sunny day
busy.
here in
Oh, great.
Pennsylvania. Yes, so
Pennsylvania.
we're very happy that it's not 30 degrees like it was yesterday.
Yes, I heard the spring is springing back out in the eastern part of the United States, and that's a good thing.
It
And
is.
you guys are pretty busy with IPA USA, so you've got and you took over the
We did.
Screen Free Week, right? I think that's the right name.
Yep.
And you'll be leading that now, which is amazing. And you've got the conference coming up, so yeah,
Mhm,
tell us a little bit about IPUSA. So today we're going to talk about the policy brief with the white paper. But it'd
mhm.
be great if you could just start by telling the audience a little bit about IPA USA, what you guys do, and then tell us about the white paper and how that came to be.
So the USA branch of IPA World is one of 19 countries that are all dedicated to the child's right to play. And so the USA affiliate or branch is the one that is in the United States. And then we do chapters if folks are interested in having like an on the ground IPA. So we have IPA California, we have IPA New York coming on, Western New York coming on. We have IPA Texas getting ready to come on. And so chapters give us an opportunity to have those local, because everything happens local. I mean, we can say here's sort of what we need to do, but it's the people on the ground locally that actually are able to implement things. So they implement the National Day of Play, which is always the third Saturday in September, or that week if you're working in a university and you want to do something in your college or university. And then, of course, everybody we hope is going to be celebrating the UN International Day of Play on June 11th, which we're promoting. And we're really promoting that to be in early care and education programs and Head Start programs and public schools, to just take a break and have a day of play. And then we have the conference coming up at in Louisville, Kentucky, where we'll be at the Kentucky Science Museum on Wednesday and Thursday, but then we go to Bernheim Arboretum on Friday, which has the most amazing nature playground. And so we're going to be at the Bernheim Arboretum all day, Friday and Friday evening. And then, of course, Saturday, we do all the fun tours. And we were just there on a site visit. And oh my goodness, just amazing community organizing and advocacy that is taking place in Louisville um, for underserved neighborhoods. It's just truly amazing. So anyway, the white paper in 2023, it was our 50th anniversary, IPA USA's 50th anniversary. And I said, we should do something special. And so I've been frustrated that we don't have like a collection easily accessible of papers that people
Mm-hmm.
could use that are in a variety of topics. So the white paper sort of came about with 8 categories of papers that were submitted. So we had 57 authors, 59 authors, sorry, and 57 papers that were submitted in those 8 categories. And it became this repository of evidence that is written in layman's terms, but evidence so that people could say, oh, I'm really interested in nature play. And so what's nature play all about and why is it good for children? So it became this sort of advocacy tool that is free
Mm-hmm.
to everyone. Those 59 authors were kind in contributing to the white paper. And so when we released the white paper, we also released it with policy briefs and a press release so that people could take that information locally, um, do their press release for their organization or for their IPA state chapter or local chapter, or just for another entity, and they could say, here's why we need to do blah, 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 blah. So the position papers were actually created from the author's papers that were submitted. And so they're all cited in there. And they have, I love the format of them. I've used that format in other advocacy work because
Mm-hmm.
it's really, what's the issue? Why do we need to be focused on this? And then it goes into talking about the cost of doing nothing if
Mm-hmm.
we don't do that, and then why we should be doing something. And so each one, typically policy briefs, when you want to hand them to a legislator or to your mayor or to the
Mm-hmm.
county commissioners, you just want it to be one page, front and back, right? And you hand it to them because they get lots of stuff. Some of them are longer than that. And so again, organizations have the opportunity to cut and paste them into the same format if they wanted to, and to
Mm-hmm.
use what would be most beneficial in their local community. And so in the 8 categories, you have It's a Child's Right, which is
Mm-hmm.
a very important one. And then you have executive summaries that sort of take the intro and the conclusion of each one of those white papers. So you can go to the executive summaries and click on one and say, oh, yeah, I want to read more. I want to read that whole white paper. And then you can head to the white paper. And they're not really long. We ask them to keep them to like 2,500 words. So it's not like you're
Mm-hmm.
reading a book for each paper. And then so we have It's a Child's Right. Every child deserves a break. How parents can support the child's right to play. Nature is essential. Play as a biological necessity. Play across the lifespan. Readiness is not what you think. And the healing power of play. And each one of those has then its own policy brief. So that's what we did, and we're doing another.
Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
doing another one. So these were the 8 categories that are the white paper is framed. So the white paper is based on the same 8 categories. You have all
Mhm.
these essays, and then the policy briefs are kind of summarizing those essays so that you can use that as like an advocacy tool. That's what I love so much about it because yes, 1 pagers, 2 pagers, even a couple more if you have to. But at least if you have it in front of you, right? If you're going to meet with a legislator and you want to talk with them about, okay, every child deserves a break, right? Maybe you're trying to get more recess, right? And so you can just highlight these things that are so important really quickly with them. The link, right? The research we know from the link program. The Debbie Rhea, I think, has been doing that work in
Mhm.
Texas,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so
And
you can cite
even
to that
other
quickly.
states. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, other states as well too have looked at that as well. So that's really important. And this is the kind of stuff people ask defending their leaders for all the time, right? We used to put out fact statements and those policy briefs. We're working on now one for our campaign, which is going to have a similar type thing, 10 things we know about child development and just quickly highlight what we know, throw some research on there, right? And so that's a really good tool. But I really love this cost of doing nothing.
Mhm.
And so what happens when we do nothing around this and how do you, and then the benefits of doing something so that people can see, right, that there's a lot of trade-offs there in early childhood. So that's great. So let's tell people where they can find everything, right? Of course, if you go to the IPA USA website, and you go under advocacy, and it's right there, 50th anniversary white paper. I love that it's free. We produce a lot of free materials as well too. It's great. You can download the very long, large paper,
Yes.
and that's great. And then DEY has put the policy papers on our advocacy map. So if you go to DEY.org and click on advocacy and click on our map, one of the last entries, it's up there, and it talks about the policy briefs, and we've linked all 8 of the policy briefs as well there. So that's another place to get them. They're also linked in the white paper towards the end. You can click on them and get to them there. So there's lots of places for people to find them as well too. So Deb, how would you like people to use these? What do you see? What's your vision around folks using the policy briefs and the press release?
So I can give you some ideas that I used when I was in Colorado. So I was in Colorado for 25 years, and we had a very conservative Colorado at that point in time. And I was in the
Mm-hmm.
most conservative um, county in Colorado. And so everything was devolved to the county commissioners. And so you really needed to consider what was most important about supporting families and young children. And then you needed to go in and sit with them and have a discussion. And so
Mm-hmm.
we use that framework of the policy brief in our advocacy work because we could target it. So we were able to say, okay, these county commissioners are really worried about this, and here's something that they could do to fix it. And so we would
Mm-hmm.
go and just target it. So what I'm hoping is that you know your communities better than we do at a national organization. And so what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping is that you'll think about what are you struggling with in the school districts with whatever is happening in classrooms with young children. What are you struggling with at a state level or at a local level in getting funding for certain things? How can you use the policy brief to apply for grants and funding? Because
Mm-hmm.
the evidence is there for you, and it is current, and you even have more detail if you want to go read their paper. So we're hoping there's a press release in there too that you could use it locally to get people, especially if you have I think it's not my favorite, but one of the ones that I think is really important is readiness is not what you think. Because we have so many people that say, oh, the test scores are going down, and I'm like, there's a reason for that. So let's talk about what that reason is. And I always found in policy work that if I could get them what they wanted, what do you
Mm-hmm.
want the outcome to be? What are you concerned about? What would you like to see differently? Then I had more success in moving things forward. And so those policy briefs are there for you, and um, the press release can be tailored to your community and to get more publicity about the policy brief so that you're able to drive advocacy from your local area to make change. That's where change happens. It happens locally and at the state level. And then sometimes eventually it bubbles up to the federal level. So um, you have the most power locally and at the state level. So use it to protect childhood. I mean, and that's what we're all here for. We need
Yeah.
to protect childhood because children are playing. They're on tablets or
Mm-hmm.
on an iPhone everywhere. So
Yeah.
um it's that the use of screens, which is one of the reasons why we were so excited to get Screen Free Week. And when we talk about Screen Free Week, we don't mean Screen Free Week this year is the 5th through the 11th of May. Screen
Mm-hmm.
Free could be Screen Free Fridays, Screen Free Saturdays, Screen Free anytime you want. In fact, the Commonwealth of Virginia has adopted Screen Free Week in April. We don't care when you
Okay.
do. And they did that because they had to work around the tests, right? The
Mm.
standardized testing. And so Screen Free Week really ties into IPA USA's mission and vision, which is we really need to protect childhood and children need to play. And screens are replacing play. So that's going to harm everything. It's going to harm child development. It's going to harm relationships, which are already seen. It's going to disconnect families more than we feel like we're already disconnected because, the kids are on Instagram or Facebook or whatever else is new out there, WhatsApp or TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
and the parents are on something else, right? So everybody is being distracted by screens and not communicating together. So those are sort of the ways that we're hoping people will use the white paper so that you can advocate for what you need to have happen in your community.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. And then defending childhood and advocating. And I think also to remind people, yes, advocating to elected officials and local and is important, but even advocating to other parents, right? Who are out here unsure, and they're the ones that might be telling the teachers less play, more work, right? So talking to other parents and be like telling them why you choose play for your child, and other teachers, right, and other people, or even people who don't have kids, grandparents, anyone, right, like who needs to know, because there's so much misinformation. I think the thing about readiness is so important to challenge. I've been speaking a lot about this, and I've been saying to people, like, this is the hill I'm prepared to die on. But like, the more we focus on readiness, the more we corrupt learning, the more we focus on preparation for the next thing. And that's
Mm.
anything in life, right? When you jump too far ahead because you're focused so far away, you lose track of where you're at, and it just corrupts backwards, right? So, I'm
Yes,
hearing that new states are implementing UPK, universal pre-K, and their idea was to take all the 5-year-old standards and just cut them in half and
yes,
say that's what 4-year-olds should be doing. That's the problem when you're focused on the what not right now, what a who a 4-year-old is and what they need. You think they're just half a kindergartner. Like, it's really sad,
exactly.
right? Like that's the kind of thinking. But that's for people who don't know child development. That's for people who, don't spend their time working with young children and seeing them differently. And it's our job to kind of have to educate that, right? But we need to push back on this readiness, readiness, readiness. Childhood, it's like we're trying to escape it. It's like we're trying to bypass it. I almost
It
wonder, if
is.
people would they bypass their children's childhood? If they could, magically get them to go from 5 to 12, would they do it? And
Mm.
and sadly, I think a lot of people would, because they don't value childhood as a very special time that we should be honoring and trying to make longer, and not trying to take it away, right? 15-year-olds might want to come back into the childhood work, right? In the world of childhood. And so, yeah, that idea of readiness, I think it's such a problem. And there's all these fears
Mm.
that parents are having, and teachers aren't preparing them to read, and parents, your kids aren't going to be successful because they weren't ready. But, and instead of the flip side, which is getting in school environments ready for the young children who are coming in the door, right? And so,
Exactly. And
yeah,
the whole section on every child deserves a break really talks about recess.
yeah,
Really talks about, even I think what is alarming me is that even in toddler rooms, children are doing large group activities all day long, teacher directed.
mm-hmm,
Um, Teachers are saying, "Oh, I have to get them to understand what their letters are when they're 2," when we know that that's not where they are when they're 2. I mean, if we just look at schemas and
mm-hmm,
where children are and what they're developing, that will get them more and more developed in investigating and being curious and exploring and build those prior learnings that they need in order to add on later. It's just crazy that.
yeah,
And if you go to Play as a Biological Necessity and that set
mm-hmm,
of white papers, it also really sort of brings us back to what we know children need, what we believe children need, and we felt really uncomfortable with what's happening in classrooms because we feel so pressured from families, and we feel so pressured from those kindergarten teachers who are panicked because the first grade and second grade and third grade teachers are panicked. And so, it's almost like we just need to reset and
yeah,
say, what
yeah,
you've been doing for 24 years has not worked. Let's try something else, right? Let's not have a canned curriculum that we hand to second grade teachers. Let's not have children on iPads checking their math scores and reading scores when all they're doing is pushing buttons and moving screens. It's not an authentic way of assessing what children can know and be able to do. Yet that memorization of the stupid tests and all of the stuff that we're making them do is the lowest form of
mm-hmm,
cognition, remembering, lowest
yeah.
form of cognition.
Yeah. And play is the highest form of cognition. There is nothing higher than engaging in any type of play. I don't care if it's imaginary, constructive, dramatic. any
Perfect.
type of play. It's the highest form of learning that young children can engage in, and it stretches their mind, right? I think
Yeah.
people miss out on so much, like so much of the early years. We should be doing a foundation for
Mhm.
developing the whole child, right? And that comes through not sitting down and getting remote and direct instruction and all of this, but through exploring. And when I see these images of all these folks who have these play programs and the kids just kind of like out in nature, just exploring, searching for things, or laying under a blanket and just staring up at something, right? It's like that is what's developing the
That's
foundation
it.
for that
Yes.
kind of learning that's going to happen down the road, right? But instead, we've gotten so confused where we think, no, we got to start the academic learning now, right? Instead of letting it come later. And yeah, I think I love to your point. We've had these reforms for so long. No Child Left Behind came in the 90s, right? We have over 20, 25 years of evidence that
Mhm.
these things don't work,
Doesn't
but
work.
yet we're not changing them, right? We're blaming everything but the reforms. We're blaming everything but the push down of academics into young children as the real problem of what's happening. And so that's why I think these policy briefs around play are super important, right? Because we need to show people, that play, we know so much. And that's the other thing I love, that
No,
it's like
so
we know
much.
so much.
Yes.
It's not one of these areas we don't know in or we don't really understand. Like, we know that children learn to speak and read and stuff, but it's still a mystery. And some of these, scientists will tell you they still can't pinpoint the mechanism of it,
Mhm.
right? They understand that it's happening. And that's just, I think that's just, we can't understand how everything happens. We know that it does, but science play is one of those things that we've seen
We did it.
evolutionary. Peter Gray has showed us evolutionary, how we adapt play in mammals and species, how they adapt, and how it's such a, like you said, the biological necessity. We know what it does to the brain, right? We've had so much brain research telling us about play, and we know when children are deprived of play and nature and outdoors, what happens to their development. So we know a lot of these things. But for some reason, we don't trust it. We don't trust that it's enough, right? And so that's just really, or sometimes I think we're afraid of play too. I think a lot of teachers I've seen, what do? That's my new focus: is what
Right.
should you be doing while kids are playing, because it's very different, and teachers don't
Mhm.
know what to do when kids are playing. And so then there's the idea that you have to guide the play and you have to direct the play. And look, maybe there's some need for that, but I am 100%
Mhm.
free play advocate, right? Like,
Yeah.
step back and just watch and observe and document, and then think about, what you maybe guide reflections later. One of the things I love about Anji play is they engage in this reflective discussion, 2 hours after play, then you get them to talk about it, right? But it's not happening in the moment. In the moment, it's just, whatever the children are doing, and they get the focus. And I see that in a lot more play-based programs. So, well, this was great, Deb. We can continue talking about play and all of these amazing
Ever.
things.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about the next white paper, which I apologize. You tried so hard to get me to contribute to this white paper, and I fell off the wagon and couldn't do it. But I'm committed to the next one. So my question is, tell us about the next white paper, and do you think it's going to be the same categories, or do those emerge once people tell you what they're writing about, and then you kind of identify the categories?
So because I'm hoping we can get more in there on screens, right? So that we can get the research. There's tons of research out there, and there are experts that can write a white paper on it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving people the opportunity when they submit a, a title to give me a new category, right?
Okay.
I want a new category. So you can choose these, you can add one, you could do whatever you want, because those are and then I'm able to go and target specific
Mm-hmm.
for experts in that category in addition to the person who submitted it. So you can access the new white paper Google form if you're a member of IPA USA at all. I'm sending out those links where you can submit your title. Those are due by July 1st.
Okay.
Um, but the paper's not due until January of 2026. And the goal is that the paper will be released at the IPA World Conference in New Zealand in November of 2026. So those are that's sort of the process. And people said, oh my God, you did it for your 50th anniversary. Why so soon? Because so many people said, I missed it.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
the the deeper we can have this collection, that people can go to, and it will be a separate document. It'll be the 2026 white paper. But then there'll be two documents that you can consider when you want to move forward. So it's exciting, and I get
Yeah.
to read every single one of them. And I would sit by my husband as I was reading them last in the summer, finishing up the some of the editing and things. And I had other people who were readers. And if anybody wants to read, please send me an email. Um, I would say, oh my God, this was just incredible. Oh my God. And I over and over. And it
Mm-hmm.
just renewed, your hope that
Yeah. Yeah.
we can make a difference. We know what to do. People just don't ask us because they see play as recreation instead of as
Mm-hmm.
a logical necessity. And that's the mindset that we have to change. Play is
Yeah.
not
Absolutely.
sports. It's not gym. It's not gymnastics. It's not softball. It's not any of those things because that's adult directed. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if we really want children to love to learn, then play is the way to build those foundations.
Play is learning. Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
just how they learn. It's development. It's how they develop. It's how they learn. It's so important. Well, I've got the form open, so I will definitely be filling out. And I'm going to sign up to read because it's the only way I'll get to read them all. I want to read as many of them as I could, and definitely want to look at topics, around. I've been really looking about play as liberation, but also thinking about play in terms of race and other aspects of
Yeah.
identity, and how do we navigate the play space where, I know a lot of people who study children's racial identity and they find play problematic because that is when children, engage in stereotyping and bias and prejudice might come up during the play, but it also is a great opportunity to use play to engage in. I love when I'm playing with kids and I hear something that like, oh, I heard that. Let's talk about in the play, right? Like how do we or yeah, or role playing and different things that you can do, but like using children's play because that's when they're trying to make sense of these really big things. And that's why it comes up in play and it's super important. So hopefully we'll get that as a category. And I'm already thinking
Yes.
of people that I'll send this to and say, hey, you should submit to this. You should submit to this. Like we should all make sure that we have a nice collection of papers around that area. But this is very exciting. So thank you so much. And yeah, I'm so
Thank
excited.
you
I
so
can't
much.
wait to the World IPA New Zealand. As you know, I was there in Scotland a couple years ago, and it was an amazing experience. I don't know if I'll be in Louisville, but we just talked. Hopefully, I'll be able to zoom in and present with the group there. I love the IPA USA conference. South Carolina was great, despite the nature issues
Despite the
we had last
hurricane,
year.
we still
The
had fun though.
hurricane, yeah, it wasn't your fault. I mean, with the hurricane, but Louisville's great. One of our working groups is for DEY is in Louisville, and they are doing amazing work on behalf of children in early childhood. So I know that I could connect if I'm able to go. So right now I don't know, but we're going to promote. We want people to go to the IPA USA conference in Louisville. It's going to be amazing. You get to go out and see places. That's what I think I love about the play conferences is that we get you out. Even the World Conference, there were days of just going out, seeing places. That's super important, right? Getting out and not just hearing about play, but going to these different places in the community that we're in, so that we can get a sense of that. So yeah, we'll be sharing all that and Screen Free Week, which we all believe, no matter I've got 2 screens here, 3 screens here. I get it, but I also like a break. We all need a break, and
All need a
so
break.
yeah, giving
Yeah.
ourselves and the children our lives a break is great. So we'll be sharing all that in the next DEY newsletter, but we just want to thank you so much for joining us for this DEY dialogue.
It's
And
been
for the rest of
great.
you, thank you. Look for more dialogues coming up in the future. You can always find them on our on our website, DEY.org, and also on our YouTube page. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.